Imagine a stretch of water, shimmering under the relentless Middle Eastern sun. It is narrow, painfully narrow. At its tightest point, it is only 21 miles wide. To the north lie the rugged, imposing coastlines of Iran. To the south, the desert sands of Oman and the Emirates. This is the Strait of Hormuz. It is the jugular vein of the global economy. Every single day, 20 million barrels of oil pass through this choke point. That is a third of the world's liquefied natural gas and a quarter of total global oil consumption. If you hold this strait, you hold the world hostage. And if you light a match here, the entire globe burns. Today, we are not looking at politics. We are not looking at diplomacy or rhetoric. We are stepping into the war rooms of Washington and Tehran. We are looking at the maps, the satellite feeds, and the weapon systems. We are analyzing a hypothetical yet terrifyingly possible conflict between the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran through the cold, hard lens of military tactics. This is a study of asymmetry. It is a clash between the world's greatest superpower, wielding a hammer of unparalleled technological might, and a regional power that has spent 40 years mastering the art of the ambush, the trap, and the shield. Let us first turn our eyes to the blue force, the United States.
For the Pentagon, a war with Iran is a nightmare of logistics and geography, but it is a scenario they have simulated thousands of times. The American doctrine relies on overwhelming force and air-sea battle. The primary objective for the U.S. in the opening hours of a conflict is not invasion, it is blindness and paralysis. The American strategy begins in the silent, invisible realm of cyber warfare and electronic jamming. Before a single missile is fired, U.S. Cyber Command would likely initiate massive attacks on Iran's command and control grid, aiming to sever the link between the leadership in Tehran and the missile batteries on the coast. Then comes the steal. The U.S. Navy does not fight alone, it fights as a carrier strike group, a floating city of diplomacy and destruction. An aircraft carrier like the USS Gerald R. Ford carries an air wing capable of delivering more firepower than the entire air forces of most nations. But the carrier is just the queen on the chessboard. She is protected by Aegis destroyers and cruisers, ships designed to track hundreds of targets simultaneously and swat missiles out of the sky with lasers and interceptors.
The American tactical approach relies on establishing total air superiority. This falls to the first day of war assets, the B-2 Spirits and the F-22 Raptors. These stealth aircraft are designed to slip through radar nets like ghosts. Their targets? The Iranian Integrated Air Defense System. The U.S. must destroy the eyes of the enemy, the radar sites in the Zagros Mountains, and their teeth, the S-300 and Bavar 373 surface-to-air missile batteries. Once the air defenses are degraded, the U.S. Air Force and Navy would unleash a torrent of Tomahawk cruise missiles, raining down on command bunkers, communication hubs, and ballistic missile silos. The American goal is speed. It is shock and awe reinvented for the 2020s. They want to decapitate the command structure so fast that the enemy cannot organize a counterstrike. However, the view from Tehran is entirely different. Let us shift our perspective to the Red Force, the Islamic Republic of Iran. The Iranian generals know they cannot win a conventional war against the United States. If they line up their tanks against American Abrams tanks, they lose. If they fly their jets against American F-35s, they die. They know this, so they do not plan to fight a fair fight. Their entire military doctrine is built around asymmetric warfare and anti-access area denial, known in military circles as A2AD. Iran's geography is its greatest fortress. It is a land of high plateaus and jagged mountain ranges. It is a nightmare for an invading army and a paradise for hiding mobile missile launchers. The Iranian strategy is not to defeat the U.S. Navy. It is to make the cost of entering the Persian Gulf so astronomically high that the American public loses the stomach for the fight.
Tactically, Iran relies on the swarm. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy operates thousands of small, fast attack craft. These are not destroyers. They are speedboats armed with heavy machine guns, rockets, and torpedoes. In a conflict, they would not attack one by one. They would swarm a U.S. capital ship like a hive of angry hornets. Even the most advanced Aegis radar system struggles to track 300 high-speed targets zigzagging across the waves simultaneously. If just one or two get through, they can cripple a billion-dollar warship. But the true backbone of Iranian tactics is their missile program. They possess the largest and most diverse missile arsenal in the Middle East. They have built missile cities, vast underground complexes buried deep beneath layers of concrete and mountain rock, impervious to conventional airstrikes. From these silos, they can launch waves of ballistic and cruise missiles. Their targets are not just the ships at sea. They are the U.S. bases in the region, Al Udeid in Qatar, the Fifth Fleet headquarters in Bahrain, and airfields in the UAE. And then there is the ultimate card, the Strait itself. Iran possesses thousands of naval mines. In the event of war, they would likely seed the narrow waters of Hormuz with these silent killers. A mine costing a few $1,000s can sink a supertanker or blow a hole in a frigate. By mining the strait, Iran threatens to shut off the world's oil tap, crashing the global economy and forcing the international community to beg the US to stop. Now, let us visualize the collision. Let us run the simulation of the first 24 hours. It begins in the dead of night. Tensions have boiled over. The order is given.
02 hours. The Persian Gulf is dark. Suddenly, screens in the combat information centers of U.S. destroyers light up with electronic noise. Iranian GPS jamming begins. Simultaneously, huge swaths of Iran's electrical grid go dark as U.S. cyber weapons activate. 15 hours. The sky over the border erupts. Volleys of Tomahawk missiles, launched from submarines submerged deep in the Indian Ocean and cruisers in the Red Sea, streak low over the desert. They hug the terrain, avoiding radar, heading for the radar installations on the Iranian coast. 30 hours. The Iranian response is immediate. From the rugged valleys of the Zagros, flames illuminate the night. Ballistic missiles roar into the stratosphere. They are targeting the runways of U.S. allies in the region. The Patriot missile batteries in Saudi Arabia and the UAE engage. The night sky becomes a kaleidoscope of explosions as interceptors meet incoming warheads. Some get through. Craters open up on runways, fuel depots ignite, sending plumes of black smoke into the atmosphere. 0300 hours. The naval battle begins. The Strait of Hormuz turns into a kill zone. Iranian shore-based anti-ship missiles open fire on commercial shipping and naval vessels alike. The IRGC unleashes the swarm. Hundreds of speedboats rush the narrow channel. U.S. Apache attack helicopters and A-10 Warthogs, flying from nearby carriers and bases, dive down to meet them. The water churns with machine gun fire and Hellfire missiles. It is chaotic, brutal, and close quarters. The U.S. strategy relies on precision. The Iranian strategy relies on saturation. The U.S. wants to snipe the enemy. Iran wants to flood the zone with so much lead and fire that defense is impossible.
As the sun rises on the first day, the tactical situation is a bloody stalemate. The U.S. has likely established air superiority, their stealth jets pounding targets with impunity. But the strait is closed. A tanker is burning, blocking the shipping lane. Mines are in the water. The global price of oil has jumped to $200 a barrel. Stock markets in Tokyo, London, and New York are in freefall. The U.S. commander faces a dilemma. To reopen the strait, he has to send minesweepers in. But minesweepers are slow and vulnerable. They cannot operate while Iranian anti-ship missiles are still active on the coast. This forces the U.S. to escalate. They must move from striking military targets to striking infrastructure, bridges, power plants, and roads, to completely immobilize the Iranian forces. On the other side, the Iranian leadership is underground. They have survived the initial decapitation strike. They activate their proxy networks. Suddenly, this is not just a war in Iran. In Lebanon, Hezbollah prepares its massive rocket arsenal aimed at Israel. In Iraq, militias begin attacking American embassies and outposts. In Yemen, Houthi rebels launch drones toward Saudi oil refineries. Iran's tactical view is holistic. They turn the entire Middle East into a battlefield, stretching American resources to the breaking point. This is the trap of the asymmetric warrior. They do not need to win the battle. They just need to not lose. As long as they can keep firing missiles, as long as they can keep the strait closed, they are winning the strategic narrative. They are proving that the superpower cannot secure the region.
The United States, conversely, is fighting against time.
Every day the war drags on is a political disaster. The U.S. military machine is designed for high-intensity, short-duration conflict. Sustaining a high-tempo air campaign requires massive amounts of fuel, munitions, and maintenance. The logistics chain from the U.S. mainland to the Persian Gulf is long and vulnerable. Let's look deeper at the tactical nuances of the air war. The Iranian air defense, particularly the Bawar 373, is formidable. It is mobile, meaning it shoots and scoots. U.S. pilots in F-35s are playing a deadly game of cat and mouse. They have to turn on their active radar to find the mobile launchers, but doing so lights them up to the enemy. It becomes a battle of sensors, who sees who first. Meanwhile, in the maritime domain, the threat of the submarine is paramount. Iran operates a fleet of Kilo-class submarines. These are diesel-electric, meaning they are incredibly quiet when running on batteries. In the shallow, noisy waters of the Gulf, finding a silent submarine is like finding a needle in a haystack while wearing boxing gloves. If a Kilo-class sub manages to slip through the anti-submarine net and put a torpedo into a U.S. carrier, the psychological impact would be devastating. It would be the first time a U.S. carrier was sunk since World War II. The U.S. Navy knows this, which is why the water around the carrier group is constantly patrolled by helicopters dropping sonar buoys.
As the hypothetical conflict stretches into weeks, the tactical advantage begins to shift. The sheer depth of the American magazine comes into play. The U.S. can replenish its forces. Iran cannot. Iran's muscle stocks are finite. Once they fire their best weapons, they cannot build more under the hail of airstrikes. The U.S. would systematically dismantle the Iranian military infrastructure, piece by piece, grid square by grid square. But at what cost? The tactical victory for the U.S. would likely result in a strategic quagmire. A destroyed Iranian military leaves a power vacuum. The country could fracture. Millions of refugees would flood the borders of Turkey and Pakistan. The global economy would be battered by the energy crisis. From the Iranian perspective, even in defeat, there is a form of victory. If they manage to inflict significant casualties on U.S. forces, sinking a ship, downing pilots, they secure their legacy of resistance. They demonstrate that the cost of intervention is too high. This analysis reveals the terrifying paradox of modern warfare between a superpower and a near-peer adversary. The U.S. has the tactical advantage in firepower, technology, and integration. They can see further, hit harder, and coordinate better. But Iran has the tactical advantage of terrain, political will, and the ability to endure suffering. The war would not be decided by who has the better tank or the faster jet. It would be decided by the interaction of these complex systems. It is a clash between a rigid, high-tech hierarchy and a fluid, low-tech network.
In the end, a war between the U.S. and Iran is a scenario where the tactical maps turn red with blood, but the strategic map turns gray with uncertainty. The U.S. can bomb the silos, but can they bomb the ideology? Iran can close the strait, but can they survive the retaliation? The tactical reality is that both sides hold a gun to the other's head. The U.S. holds the gun of annihilation. Iran holds the gun of economic chaos. It is a standoff where the trigger is hair-trigger sensitive and the room is filled with gasoline. As we zoom out from the map, leaving the smoking ruins of the simulation behind, we are left with the sobering reality of deterrence. Both sides know the tactical outcomes we have just described. The generals in the Pentagon and the commanders in the IRGC have run these same simulations. They know the cost. And perhaps it is that shared knowledge of the horrific tactical reality that keeps the peace. Warfare has evolved. It is no longer just about taking the hill. It is about systems, economies, and psychology. The clash between the US and Iran represents the ultimate test of modern military theory. It is a test the world hopes to never see graded. But the ships are still there. The missiles are still in the silos. And the Strait of Hormuz still shimmers in the heat, narrow, dangerous, and vital. The stage is set. The actors are in place. And the script is written in the language of fire and fury, waiting for a director to call action. Let us hope that day never comes. For more deep dive analyses into the mechanics of modern conflict and the strategies that shape our world, make sure you are subscribed. We break down the complex into the understandable.
Subscribe for more tactical insights.